Ron.
Hello, Wolf.
How are you, my friend?
I am doing great, man. Great to hear from you. Thanks for doing this.
You bet. You bet. Where are you these days?
I am
What part of the world?
I am in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the last place you found me when you guys played over here in, what was it, 2016, I think? And yeah, we're still here, man.
Yeah.
I love it here in the Midwest, and I'm 5 minutes from the airport. Got a really nice cabin in the woods by the river. It's fantastic.
Cabin in the woods, shooting your own squirrels and all that for supper.
No, not exactly, but life is good here, and you're still in Nashville, I take it.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm kind of all over the place these days, but I still have the place in Nashville, and that's where I'm calling from. Yes, sir.
Of course, man. Well, did you get the note about the liners IDs that I was going to ask you for?
Yeah, I did. Let me go find them. Do you want to do those first, or what?
That would be great. Let's knock that out. One for the show, Ron Keel.
Yeah.
You're on the streets of rock and roll with Ron Keel, and the other one for the station, KRFK.
Right on. Let me just hold on. Where's Brunfold's email here? Let me just see that market. I'll find it in a minute. It's easier if I can see it in front of me. There we go. Hey, and you're on the streets of rock and roll with Ron Keel. You got it. Are we running?
We are rolling, my friend.
Hey guys, this is Wolf Hoffmann from Accept, and you're on the streets of rock and roll with Ron Keel.
Perfect.
You're listening to KRFK Radio, Live the Rock.
Yes, sir.
KRFK. Hey, this is Wolf Hoffmann from Accept, and you're listening to KRFK Radio, Live the Rock.
Too Mean to Die, title track to the latest album from Accept, and I'm joined on the phone by founding member and lead guitarist Wolf Hoffmann. Hello, Wolf. It's great to speak to you again. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, man. Long time no see. How's it been, my man?
It's been great, man. After 46 years and all the changes we've seen in the world, in the music business, in the lineup for Accept, you guys are still kicking ass. You might be one of the nicest guys in metal, but it seems like you and the band really are too mean to die.
Seems like that. We're the German robots. We're indestructible, my man. So even a pandemic can't kill us.
That's fantastic. We're all happy about that. And the big news is the band is about to embark on your first American tour in 10 years. That's got to be very exciting for both the band and the fans.
That's correct. Yeah, we're super excited. As you know, we've done selected gigs over the years here and there, and we even came to your neck of the woods once, but we have never done a full-blown U.S. tour like we used to do in the good old days, and we really told our booker, man, if we're going to go out, we really like to stay out and go from town to town and see everybody and do these, hit these places again that we haven't been to in a long time. So, yeah, we're super excited.
The U.S. leg of the Accept Too Mean to Die tour kicks off in Nashville September 29th. Tickets and details are all on the website, acceptworldwide.com. There are meet and greet packages available as well. And like you said, it's been 10 years since you did a full-blown tour, but I recall seeing you at one of those one-off shows in my neck of the woods, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, for a show in 2016.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that show, actually. It was great fun. Yeah, but, we really like to go out on the road and tour, play every night. As you know, you get into a certain groove, and it's really fun to stay in the zone rather than just doing a one-off or two-off and then going back to your normal life. So it's really fun to be out on the road and stay in character, so to say.
Absolutely. I do recall that concert. It was a fantastic show, and I think it was the loudest concert I've ever been to. Wolf, I was part of the management team at that venue. I was doing the radio show there and part of the entertainment team, and I had a hand in the design of that sound system. And the whole time you guys are on stage, I kept telling my tech staff, I said, man, it's going to blow. They're going to blow up the PA. It did not blow up, but man, that was close.
We came close, huh? That's the idea.
And there were no amplifiers, no amps on stage. It was all direct signal into the sound system.
That's right. We use Kemper amps since, forever and ever, and they work fantastic because they sound more consistent. They sound great. We love using them. and they're like, portable. So it's really the best way for us to bring across what we want to bring across.
I'm speaking with Wolf Hoffmann, leader, founder, and guitarist of Accept, touring the U.S. this fall and then across Europe in January and February. Wolf, the itinerary says the tour includes back-to-back dates in Russia and the Ukraine, literally from Moscow to Kiev in a matter of days. Given the current situation over there, how do those dates even happen?
I don't think they will, to be honest. I think that info must be a bit outdated. See, that tour was originally planned for 2020, way before any of the pandemic or that Ukraine war ever happened. So, of course, we were planning to go to Russia and the Ukraine like we always do, because we've got a great number of fans over there. And I think given the current situation, we will no longer be able to do that, which is a shame because, metal fans are here and there over there. And, why do they get punished for all this? I wish we could still go, but we can't. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I did see that on the itinerary and thought that was probably a long shot. Now, a new recording deal with Napalm Records. When can we expect the 17th album from Accept?
Yeah, I know everybody's asking for it, but by God, we've just made the last album and we haven't even properly toured for it. So I gotta, ask for a bit of patience there. We signed the deal knowing that it will be a while before we can make a new album, because we need a little time to write these songs and to record everything. And also our producer, Andy Sneap, he's partly to blame for any delays because he's in a band called Judas Priest now.
That's right.
So they are touring all the time. So we can only record or work with him when he's available, which, we'll have to check his schedule. But so anyhow, probably sometime next year, we'll start the whole process of recording, and it might get released next year, but I can't promise anything. I know it's in the pipeline, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we're all waiting and still certainly enjoying Too Mean to Die. Obviously, you're going to be very busy for the next 6 months touring the world. I remember your first headline tour of the U.S. supporting that legendary album, Metal Heart, when your opening act was a young band called Keel, and we'll always be forever grateful for that opportunity, man.
I remember that tour. That was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was, man. Very memorable for us and the fans. We still get fans every day posting their ticket stubs and flyers from that tour. Do you remember where we were 37 years ago today?
Oh, hell no. Do you? Did you look it up?
I did. I cheated. We were in East Troy, Michigan at the Alpine Valley Music Theater.
Oh, Alpine Valley. I actually do remember that venue because we played there many times, and it was always a good experience because they had a golf course there and some sort of resort area. That was fantastic. I do remember that, actually. Wow, Alpine Valley. Go figure.
37 years ago today, man. It was a fantastic memory for us. And then 12 years later, 1997, I'm in a country band in Nashville, and the manager had set up a photo session for us, and we walked into this photo studio in downtown Nashville, and there's Wolf Hoffmann taking the photos.
How about that? I do remember that also. I still, if I dig hard enough, I can probably still find the negatives or the pictures of it somewhere in my archive. But to be quite honest, I've retired from being a photographer. I enjoyed it for many, many years, especially during the time that Accept was not active in service. I really enjoyed being a photographer because it was a creative job in a way, and I really loved it. But it was always my second love in life, oddly enough. I never felt quite the same passion and satisfaction that I do that I get when I'm on stage or recording albums and such. But during that time, Accept was at a standstill, and I figured that's the second best thing I can do in life. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed working with you guys.
Oh, you continue to use that talent for the visual arts with some stunning videos from Accept through the years. My personal favorite is Stampede, with those spectacular landscapes and strong performances from the band, and the very cinematic clip from last year, The Undertaker, which is a great 6-minute movie with an epic soundtrack.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, we enjoyed making that. That actually happened during the pandemic, so we couldn't be It happened in two parts of the world. The main part was shot in Poland, of all places, and we were shooting some scenes here in Nashville, and they were later on stitched together, but we couldn't actually travel during that time. Crazy, huh?
Yeah. Well, I was watching the video, doing my prep for the interview, catching up on some of the stuff, of course, re-listening to all the albums and checking out the video clips, and I'm watching the video with the headphones on, so my wife couldn't see what was on the screen, and she was riveted to the video without even any sound. She says, who is that? I said, well, that's Accept, and then I played the track for her really loud over the speakers, and we both loved it, man. I encourage everyone to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Accept Tube. Accept is on all the major social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and of course, all those links and the tour dates can be found easily at acceptworldwide.com. Wolf Hoffmann on the line. Is there anything that I missed, anything that you want to touch on or comment on or say that I haven't addressed already?
Yeah, we got exciting news as far as the lineup is concerned. We are actually playing with 3 guitar players now, so we're 6 guys in the band. And I tell you, it sounds killer. And it all happened, like so many things in life, by coincidence. We found a great guitar player. His name is Phil Schaus. He joined us on our last tour in Europe for an orchestral tour that we did, because our other guitar player was not available, so he was a stand-in or sit-in on that tour. And he turned out to be such a fantastic player and super nice guy that we decided to keep him on, even after Uwe came back and we did regular Accept shows. And we've played in this lineup all summer long in Europe on a large festival run that we did, and it sounds killer. Now we can do even more parts from the album, and sometimes we riff all 3 on the same riff. Sometimes we play twin leads and a rhythm guitar player in the back, and it's killer. I really love it. So we're going to bring that lineup to the States.
I'm all for it, man. I've always been a fan of that triple axe attack. We did it in Kiel with Mark Ferrari, Brian J., and myself playing guitar. I love how you can add the voicings of the chords, the multiple rhythms, and, like you said, have a strong rhythm guitar while you're doing a harmony solo.
Exactly. So it's really nothing that, it doesn't really change dramatically, but it definitely adds a certain sparkle and a certain dimension to the whole sound. And it's a hell of a lot more fun for us on stage, too. So
I can
it's
imagine.
Definitely, yeah, it just adds, really does.
And I don't know how long this drummer has been with you, Chris. I got the chance to jam with him in Nashville last year. Great guy and fantastic musician.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he was just here 10 minutes before, and I kicked him out of the house. I said, dude, I got to do an interview now. I'm actually here at the studio, the band house right now, where we record and do everything.
That is awesome.
I said, I've got to do this interview, but he's a super, super nice guy and amazing drummer for sure.
Absolutely, man. You have continued to surround yourself with amazing musicians and a fantastic singer in Mark, and kept the Accept legend alive. The U.S. leg of the tour, once again, kicks off in Nashville September 29th. Again, go to acceptworldwide.com. Great website with all of the cool links to the social media. Like I said, meet and greet packages available as well. Wolf Hoffmann, thanks so much for the great music, the friendship, the memories, and for joining us on the streets of rock and roll this week.
You got it, my friend. As always, been a great pleasure. I hope to see you in person very soon, my friend.
I hope so, too. Thanks again. Best of luck. Be safe out there and keep kicking ass.
I'll try. You do the same, okay?
You got it, brother. Appreciate it.
All right.
Take
you
care.
Got it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Retroactive. The coolest stores on the planet. Music, merch, and memorabilia from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Located at Broadway on the Beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Visit shopretroactive.com.
No matter where you are, the largest supplier of vintage vinyl records in the Midwest is just a click away at RochesterRecordsMN.com. Welcome back to the past at Rochester Records, specializing in new and vintage vinyl LPs, 45s, CDs, DVDs, and more. If you're in Minnesota or just passing through, you're going to love visiting the store in Rochester, Minnesota. If you're anywhere else, you can shop online at RochesterRecordsMN.com. That's Rochester Records, ROCHESTER, then M as in mayhem, the letter N as in now, RochesterRecordsMN.com. Welcome back to the past, the way it used to be, the way it should be, at Rochester Records.
Hi.
Good morning, Steve.
Yeah, hi, this is Steve.
Hi, this is Ron Keel.
All right, Ron, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic, calling for a scheduled interview. You ready for this?
You got it.
Fantastic, man. Thanks so much for your time. And first of all, big props to your promo guy, Steve Karras. What a great guy. I've loved working with him, and I appreciate the hookup.
Isn't he great?
He's fantastic, man. Total pro.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky.
You got some skills too, man. We'll talk a lot about that here in the next 20 minutes. I appreciate your time, and the radio interview is about 13 minutes long. We do the full version for the podcast, so I know there's a lot to talk about and a lot of ground to cover, so let's get to it.
You got it.
Also, at the end, once I wrap up, I would love to get a couple of liners from you real quick, one for the station and one for the show, if that's all right.
You got it. My pleasure.
That is Zeus in Chains, a personal favorite of mine from the new album Inviolate by Steve Vai, one of the 10 greatest guitarists of all time. And hey, that's not just my opinion. He was voted as such by Guitar World magazine, a 3-time Grammy winner and 15-time Grammy nominee. He sold over 15 million albums, and it's my honor to welcome him to the streets of rock and roll. Hello, Steve. Thanks for this great music and for doing this interview.
Right on, Ron. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. Congratulations on the release of Inviolate, which recently debuted at number 1 on the current Hard Rock Albums chart.
Yeah, that was a surprise. I've appeared in Billboard before with my solo work, but that's the first time I ever debuted at number 1 anywhere.
That's fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And again, I got to admit, doing my prep for this interview, I fell face first into the Steve Vai rabbit hole, got caught up in the new music, of course, the videos, the songs, and the stories about your physical battles the last couple of years with the shoulder, the bicep, the thumb, and hand. Recap that for us, if you will.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, I'm a very healthy guy. I'm going to be 62 soon, and I just, you go into the doctor's office and you got to fill out all those check boxes. Have you ever had this? Are you taking medications? And it's always just no to everything. But structurally, as a guitar player growing up, there's it has its challenges, and one of the soft spots can be for some the shoulder. And I guess just from playing hunched like that for 50 years, it kind of came to a point where a year ago, December, I really had to have it looked at, and I did, and it was all torn up. And we tried we took the holistic approach, but finally, at some point, it's not going to go back together. So I had very successful surgery back then, and even when I got out of the hospital, I couldn't use my right hand, obviously, because it was in a sling, but I still recorded a song, and that made it to Inviolate called Knapsack. So I was able to start playing after just 3-4 weeks, but these kinds of surgeries, they take like a year to heal up, and you forget that you're on notice with you know what I mean? You forget that you got to be really careful. Over the summer, I did something so stupid. I was making pizza, and I was putting the pizza in the oven, and I just jerked it really hard, like 3 times, because we had this new pizza oven, and I just, and it was the wrongest position, so I kind of retore something a little bit. It wasn't that bad, and I was still planning on doing the whole tour, but then the last song on the record that I recorded was a piece of music called Teeth of the Hydra, and I was using this crazy guitar that has 3 necks, and it required me to whip my arms all over the place, and that kind of aggravated it to the point where when I finished the song, it was very obvious that there was no way I was going to be able to get through a 250-show world tour that's going to take a year and a half. So what we did was we just kind of took the first leg of the tour and rescheduled. And the thumb thing, that was a kind of an odd thing, is called trigger finger. And it's not that uncommon. It's kind of like this situation where the cable's running through your fingers and stuff. They get frayed a bit, and they kind of get caught in the tube that they're in. And your finger just starts like triggering. It's the oddest thing. And it was my thumb and my left hand didn't really interfere so much until it just froze, and then I couldn't play. So that was a very quick, easy fix. I was they just go in there, they just kind of open the tube a little bit, and everything's great. And I was playing again in a couple of days. So that's really it.
Well, I encourage everyone to follow me down that Vai rabbit hole. The YouTube channel is Steve Vai himself, and those words are all tied together. Steve Vai himself. The website is simply vai.com. That video for Knapsack, where you play the entire song with your left hand, no right hand until that very last attack.
Yeah,
man,
that was a mistake.
Was it a mistake, or you couldn't?
Well, it hurt.
It looks like it, man. And that clip has almost 2 million views. And I encourage anybody, if you're a guitar fan or a music lover, you got to subscribe to this guy, Steve Vai himself, on YouTube. You've always been Steve Vai, a solo artist and a guitar pioneer. Talk about those times when you set those priorities aside a little bit to be a member of David Lee Roth's band or Whitesnake.
Well, I still did my best to try to offer my best, and those were great opportunities because I grew up I was a teenager in the 70s, so I was exposed to all those really great rock bands. So I had rock music really in my blood. But at the same time, before that, since I was a little boy, I was fascinated with composition, and I started composing before I started playing the guitar. And but then, once I heard Led Zeppelin, it was all over. Yeah. I knew what I wanted to do. So when a gig like Dave Roth came along, or Whitesnake, they really fulfilled for me a particular desire to just be on a huge stage in front of a lot of people, running around as fast as I can, wearing crazy clothes, doing anything you wanted to do, and playing our asses off, And I really loved that. So I never really felt like if I was putting anything aside, it was the music that you finally heard on Passion and Warfare and my entire solo catalog, which you couldn't really apply any of those songs to any of the rock bands that I was with. So when I started with the solo music, it was more of an amalgamation between my compositional desires and my rock desires, so to speak.
Well, it increases your audience. I mean, a lot of our listeners fell in love with you through those projects and were exposed to this amazing instrumental music you released for us over the years. I'm speaking with guitar hero Steve Vai, the new album Inviolate, out now and available everywhere. And on the album cover, you touched on this briefly, a picture of the man holding one of the most striking musical instruments I've ever seen. The guitar is called the Hydra for a good reason, Steve. Tell us more about that axe.
Okay. I've always had an attraction to multi-neck guitars, and I've had various ones made through the years, and I've played them, and but I was never really totally satisfied with the way that I incorporated all the necks. And I just had this vision to create a piece of music on a multi-neck guitar where that instrument is the only thing you hear, with the exception of, some keyboard patches and drums. And when you get an idea like that, it becomes compelling. And this started about 7 years ago. And I kind of designed what I wanted in the guitar, like a 12-string neck, 7-string neck, bass neck, these harp strings. I wanted a synthesizer section, a guitar synthesizer section, a sample and hold piece, piezo's and sustainers, and all of these. It's a highly technical accoutrements in the guitar. I didn't know what it was going to look like, and I didn't know what the piece of music was going to be like, but I knew I had a bass neck and a 7-string neck, so I could kind of create something. So I was also into steampunk fashion at the time, and I gathered a bunch of examples, and I sent my ideas to Ibanez. And these guys went completely crazy. They threw all caution to the wind, and any kind of conservative attitudes that they harbored before were blown up because they just threw themselves into this thing. And I received the rendering of the Hydra, and I just couldn't believe it. And it took years to go back and forth and tweak it and get it just right. And finally it appeared at the house, and I couldn't believe it. It was this stunning instrument that it was scaring me to death, because I knew I had to compose this piece of music. And it sat in the studio on a stand for about a year, and every time I'd pass it, it would hiss at me, and it'd say, "You better start working on me." And finally one day I just carved out 6 weeks, and I sat behind the Hydra, and I just started the mechanics of building this song. And there was a couple of things I knew that I wanted in the song. And first and foremost, I knew I wanted it to be a standalone piece of enjoyable music that I knew my fans would, enjoy, and not a gimmick for a guitar, So this required me to consider, how am I going to create this flow of performance that sounds full and melodic without interruptions or limitations. And that's what I sat down to do. And after 6 weeks, it was done.
Will you be taking the Hydra on tour with you this year?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, I'd be a punk if I didn't.
Well, all I have to say is, thank God I am not your guitar tech / roadie, man. That guy is underpaid.
Poor Thomas, but he can deliver. He can deliver. The thing about the Hydra is you have to see the performance of the song on it to really understand. The guitar looks crazy and extraordinary, but the performance on it is really the shocker. I got to say, I shot a video, and it hasn't come out, obviously, but I think that's going to be the thing that the fans really respond to.
That tour we're speaking about, the Steve Vai in Violet tour, kicks off in the UK on June 4th, takes you all across Europe, then 52 cities across the U.S. On September 28th, we'll see you, the Hydra, hear all these great new songs live. And without giving away too many secrets, can you talk about any of the other musical content of the show? Is it all instrumental, or will there be some vocals involved?
Oh, there'll be some vocals, a little bit. My shows usually have a little bit of vocals, but the thing that I'm excited about also about getting out there is I get to be with my band again. We've been together for like 20 years, and when you have that kind of relationship and you're out on tour, there's like no secrets at sea, and it's a whole different world. And to be out there with guys that are just brothers is just so great. And we've got Dave Weiner on guitar, Philip Bino on bass, Jeremy Colson on drums, and we're just so excited to get out there.
We're excited to see you, man. And there are a number of VIP meet and greet and merch options. Really cool Evo packages, you call them, available when you buy tickets at Vai.com. Check out all those options. And throughout history, Steve, those guitarists that truly reinvented the instrument, from Chuck Berry to Hendrix to Van Halen to Vai, have inspired generations of young people to pick up that instrument and express themselves. You've been very active in teaching through your master classes, the Vai Academy guitar camps, and other instructional efforts. That's a totally separate skill set, man, which drives your desire to share your time and your talents through teaching. Talk about that, please.
Well, I've always loved teaching because that's how I learned. I had great teachers throughout my whole life, and every guitar player I see, no matter what their skill level, has something to teach me, and I felt like I've had such a charmed career, for the past 42 years. I've learned so much. I've learned to navigate the industry as an independent. I've learned to relate to large groups of people on a stage, and I've been through stuff where I've seen my mistakes, and I've seen things that worked. I've seen how certain personal growths for me were so effective in my connection with the instrument and the music, and it almost feels criminal for me not to share those things, because I remember I had all those questions when I was younger, and I hear those questions from young people now, and I can tell them my experience, and I like doing that. I feel like it's as they say, paying it forward somehow.
Absolutely, man. It's very cool. And you and I crossed paths back in the day. We shared some good times in the Hollywood heyday. And I always admired about you the fact that you're a down-to-earth human being with an out-of-this-world talent, man. So you've always been and you can tell that in your video clips. Online, it's just Steve Vai, his guitar, his amazing music, and his hands. There's a lot that we can get from watching these videos and seeing some of that. What is the new finger bending technique? I don't have that in my notes, but it's absolutely sick. It's on which song is it?
Joint shifting. Yeah, it's joint shifting on Candle Power.
Joint shifting on Candle Power. You got to check this video out. I should have put that in my notes and I was blown away by all the stuff that I saw when I was prepping for this interview. There are a number of VIP meet and greet merch options. Like I said, when you buy tickets, visit Vai.com for all those options. While this radio show is worldwide on a dozen stations, I know we have a few thousand listeners here in my adopted hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, listening on kbackradio.com. So I want to make a special mention of that show at the District in Sioux Falls on November 21st. Steve, I'll see you then.
Oh, boy, I can't wait. Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely. Before we go, I just want to mention one of my all-time favorite movie soundtracks. The film is called Dudes, and the soundtrack features Megadeth, Wasp, Steve Vai's incredible version of Amazing Grace, and some band named Keel. So I can proudly say that I appeared on an album with Steve Vai, one of the greatest guitarists of all time.
That was a fun project, eh?
It is. And listeners, please stay tuned. We're going to end the show with Steve's version of Amazing Grace. Once again, the new album from Steve Vai, In Violet, available now everywhere. The website, once again, is Vai.com. Steve, thanks again for being the cool combination of a guy who's down to earth with an out-of-this-world talent. Thanks for the music, the inspiration, and for this interview.
Well, thank you, Ron, for all your contributions to this business. You know, I would never, not recognize that, because have always been a real player in the whole business, connected to your art and your work, and it's so nice that you're doing these things now.
Thank you so much. Once again, Steve Vai, back after this on the streets of rock and roll. Fantastic discussion, my friends. So much more I could have touched on. And before we go, let's get those liners, if you don't mind. One for the station. This is Steve Vai, and you're listening to KRFK Radio.
Hey, folks, this is Steve Vai, and you're listening to KRFK Radio.
And one for the show. This is Steve Vai, and I'm on the streets of rock and roll with Ron Keel.
Hey, folks, this is Steve Vai, and I am on the streets of rock and roll with the one and only Ron Keel.
That is fantastic. And your recovery is going well? You're doing all right?
Oh, yeah. I had that surgery last Friday.
Yeah.
And it turned out really good. And I'm on the mend, and I'm playing, so I'm prepping for the tour. And, do you ever talk to Mark Ferrari?
I talk to Mark all the time. In fact, we're writing new music for the next album now, and I talk to him often. He's one of my best friends of my entire life.
Oh, my God. He is such a great guy. He's been so helpful to me over the years in regard to his expertise in publishing and things like that. But I'm happy to hear that. I'm really happy to hear you guys are working together.
Yeah, we put the band back together for our 25th anniversary in 2008, and we've been fairly active ever since. Done a couple of European tours and some of those big events like M3, Monsters of Rock Cruise, and so forth. And we learned a long time ago to never say never, so we always keep the door open, and I love the hell out of that guy. He's been great to me in terms of that TV and film licensing, and literally put my kids through college with the money that we made licensing music to TV and films. So I will always be forever grateful to him for that, and for the friendship and the great times and great music. He's a hell of a guy. I'll tell him you said hey.